Hello again and welcome back. For those of you who weren't with us this morning, I'm Martin Russell. I'm the Programme Director for the Rights Respecting Schools Award. I'm hoping that you'll agree with me. The inputs we've heard throughout the day have been truly inspiring, and it's been fabulous to hear such amazing content and fantastic contributions from both colleagues at UNICEF UK and across so many schools. We're going to continue that theme of focusing on schools now by welcoming colleagues from across the UK who are all based in gold rights respecting schools. And I'm delighted that those four colleagues can join us. What we're going to attempt to do is to share my screen, which will make colleagues more visible. And we're hoping that the technology will allow us to experience it as a little bit more of a conversation, and hopefully that's going to work. Sorry, a bit glitchy. Excellent. Oh, that's looking good. I hope that looks good to others. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to invite each of you to introduce yourselves, really, and we're going to do it as a bit of a tour around the UK, and we're going to start in London, going to Redbridge, which is actually not very far from the UNICEF UK offices in Stratford. And there, Sumana leads the rights respecting work. So if you wouldn't mind saying a little bit of an introduction, Sumana, welcome.
Hello, everybody. It's been wonderful today to be with this community and everybody sharing such good practice. And I feel very privileged to be a panelist today. We have been a Gold Rights Respecting School since 2019, and then we had our reaccreditation in 2022. I lead Rights Respecting at School and RSHE as well. We're based in Ilford, in Clay Hall.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Thanks, Sumana. And so we're going to head west now. I'm doing this in a sort of clockwise direction. So we're heading across to Wales now and to Cardiff, and to say welcome to Shubnam.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me. It's a privilege to be here. I'm Shubnam Aziz. I'm the Rights Respecting lead at Mount Stewart Primary School. We're in Cardiff. We have 96% ethnic minority pupils in our school, and we are the school that had the very first black head teacher in Wales, Betty Campbell. We are a Gold Rights Respecting school. We are a new Gold Rights Respecting school. We achieved our gold in the summer term. We advocate very much for children's rights and the rights of others, and that is what we're known as throughout Cardiff. And we also support other schools through the consortia that supports schools in Cardiff and the Vale.
Thank you so much, Shubnam. And your reference to Betty Campbell reminded colleagues who were with us first thing this morning of your involvement in our lovely new video, which we premiered in the first session of today's conference. So thanks to you for your involvement in that, and also to the wonderful students and staff in Dundonald, in just outside Belfast, where Ioannis is the head teacher. So thank you for your involvement in the video as well, and welcome.
Thank you. Absolute honor to be here today. My name is Ioannis Skarmoutsos. I'm the principal of Longstone Special School. I think we feel particularly honored being a special school and having this recognition and being part of this today. We received the recognition of commitment back in 2015 with level 1 2017 and gold award in 2019, and then we regained sustainability of the gold award in 2022. So we go from nursery all the way to the age of 16 for our children, and yeah, really looking forward to this chat this afternoon. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Ioannis. Great to have you with us. And last but not least, across the water from Northern Ireland across to Scotland and to North Lanarkshire, and welcome Marie.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for the invite today. My pen has been scribbling away as everyone was talking this morning. My head is bursting full of ideas. Really excited to be here and thanks for having me. I am head teacher of Holy Cross Primary and Nursery in North Lanarkshire. We received our gold accreditation back in 2023, so just in March there, so we're just new at gold level. We're still working and there's always something to do, and I think from today listening, the more you hear, the more ideas you can share. So that's been absolutely fabulous for me this afternoon. So thoroughly happy to be here. So thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marie. And I think we'll stay with you and pick up that theme of sharing, if you'd be so kind. I'm sure colleagues who are joining us this afternoon will realise that in selecting this panel, we've got a wealth of experience, many, many years of engagement with children's rights and bringing rights to life in school. And I think it would be just wonderful for people to hear a little bit about what you as lead practitioners and senior leaders in our rights respecting schools, and what you see as the benefits of being rights respecting. In the pressure of education these days, it's a big ask for a school to take on something like children's rights. So how do you see it as beneficial, both for yourself as staff, but also obviously, especially for the children? Marie, you could respond.
Yeah, this impacts everything positively. This is the second school that I've been in where we looked at rights respecting school, and I'll hold my hand up and say the first time when I was in my previous school, my head teacher said to me, "Have you heard about RRSA?" And I thought, oh no, what now? What does she want me to do? And my heart sank. But the more I got into it and the more I understood and learned about it and worked with the children on it, my goodness, transformation isn't in it. So we'd gone from the initial, you're talking 15 years ago now, in the previous school as well, you've gone from the initial children's rights, they've got enough rights. Why do we have to hear about this? To now the whole culture changes, the language that you use to talk about relationships, to encourage and inspire other children to work together as a community. It's everybody starts singing from the same hymn sheet. And those people who sometimes vehemently oppose things come on board. Now you have to be very vigilant and keep the momentum, but it changes, there becomes a shared language, a shared expectation. It really supports your ethos where it's positive and it's fair. And I know Maxine Jolly spoke this morning about everybody working together and ensuring that what we want the best for children. And does this even impact attainment? But absolutely, the children are safer, they're happier. So that's definitely what we see. And they know that if they speak, their voice is listened to and they are heard, and we action it. And that's been key for us.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Marie. And staying on that theme, Sumana, if we come across to you just to share one or two of the benefits you've seen. In your context is very different to Marie's. You're in a very diverse, multicultural community. Have there been benefits for your school?
Oh, very definitely. And I agree with Marie. It is an investment. I came from a school where we'd already worked on that. So that was one of the reasons I agreed to come in here to do the same thing, because I understand the difference you can make with that. So positive, respectful relationships across the school community, really everybody respecting each other's rights, as the behavior has become so much more respectful, and that in turn has affected our academic results. I think in Redbridge and nationally, we're doing better than other schools. And one of the reasons is, all of that Article 29, looking back at the charters, saying, what can you do to be the best you can be? A lot of it comes from that. It's become more intrinsic, if you see what I mean. We've been commented on by visitors. The rights language is used not just by teachers, because we've invested in all our school community and our middays. Their approach over the last few years has changed in the way they talk to children, in the way the children speak to them. So such a calm atmosphere. I think it's wonderful to be a rights respecting school.
Thank you so much, Sumana. It's great to hear themes emerging through your responses about relationships and whole community and the long-term commitment. That's fantastic to hear. And if we can head to Shubnam, again on this same theme, really, just an initial perception and sense of the benefits of being rights respecting. Shubnam, please.
Well, in Wales, we're slightly different to the other countries. We have a new curriculum, and one of the drivers of the curriculum, the purposes of the curriculum, is that children in Wales need to be ethically informed citizens of Wales and the world, and an excellent vehicle to ensure that happens through our curriculum is to become a rights respecting school. What we found is that human rights education fosters responsible citizens in Wales, and we're encouraging all schools to take up Rights Respecting School Award. It equips our students with a deep understanding of their rights, responsibilities as global citizens. It encourages them to become active, informed, global citizens, responsible members of society. Our school is very well known for its activism. Our children realise that they can be agents of change. And after we came back to school after the first lockdown and the brutal murder of George Floyd, our children wanted to do a protest, and we taught them the skills necessary. They realised that this was all about human rights. They were able to identify which rights hadn't been met, and they wanted to protest. So we taught them the intrinsic skills necessary, and they went to the Senedd, which is our Welsh government, and they protested out there, and they were met by ministers who said to them that the way you have protested, you are showing us that you are citizens of Wales and you have protested in the right way. Now they know that as they grow up and as they grow older, they will be able to protest and stand up for their rights and the rights of others. We are equipping them with those skills through being a rights respecting school.
That's an amazing and really inspiring story to hear, Shubnam. Thank you so much. And to Ioannis, again, this theme of impact and benefit. I know you spoke a bit about that in the video, but I wonder if you could amplify that a little more for us. Thank you.
Yes, I guess the difference with us is being a special school. You know, at the very beginning, the question everybody poses when you're trying to introduce the rights respecting school is how much of that cognitively our children will understand, and it's unbelievable the change it has brought and how much our children understand. And because it's not only about the children, it's about the whole school community, and it's about the staff making sure that they protect the children's rights within the school. So it's something that it has changed completely the way the school operates. And I know for someone who's starting now for the first time, it's all a bit too general for them, but I can assure you that with the support of UNICEF and having, the action plans are there. And if you adapt them and introduce them to your setting, it will work. I would advise people to invest, staff that are really, really into it, let's say, from the very beginning, and they have passion for this. And this has changed the way our preventative curriculum operates in the school. Basically, I don't know if you use the same term in the rest parts of the UK, but we have a tree of preventative curriculum here of safeguard and child protection, and everything in that is now part of the Rights Respecting School Award program. And I think our example as well, when I'm going to bring in the dreaded word of the inspectors, but when we were inspected, they recognized it, and you can see actually they took that from our setting and are starting to introduce into all their documents and all the Department of Education documents because they saw it in action. And also it has given a voice to our children. Our student council is now, has a voice by sending their meetings to me, or me being part of that meeting and listening to their voice, but also most importantly, their voice and the minutes of the student council meetings that happen every 2 weeks go all the way to our board of governors, to the very top. So they do influence decisions that are to do with their learning, with their everyday life in school and the local community. And I'll just give one last example, sorry. You know, when you walk in a school and a child with a severe or moderate learning difficulty following the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, without you doing anything, and they turn around to you and say, Mr. S, there was an earthquake yesterday. I think we need to do something about it. I think that made, you know, that's when you have a tear and you go, this has worked. So extremely important and extremely valuable to us.
Fabulous, Ioannis. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wonder if we could stay with you for a moment, because you mentioned there about the power of the school council, and it would be great if we could perhaps explore that a little bit more, because I think it'd be really interesting for colleagues to hear sort of that there are challenges around school councils in every setting, and really handing over meaningful voice to young people and children can often be a challenge with all the other pressures that schools are under. And if you could share a little bit of your practice around the school council and maybe how those young people have come to make an impact, and how their voice is really amplified and taken seriously in school. Thank you.
Yes, the student council is one of the first things we introduced, you know, which for, believe it or not, back then, 2014-15, when I took over for a special school, you know, it wasn't a done practice, if you know what I mean. Our latest election actually took part on Friday, and it was a proper election with, you know, ballots and everything, and campaign prior to that. And it has, you know, it's an excellent atmosphere in the school. There's a lot of jokes and humor, and the children enjoy it. And on top of that, they also accept and learn how to deal with not being elected as well as being elected. But they all know, and we emphasize to them how important it is that they can all propose their ideas to the student council. And the student council ideas they propose for our children can be as simple as, can we please have more curry in our menu? To let's change the world by raising money for the earthquake-stricken, you know, countries. And I love that. I love that every decision, you know, they feel that they have a voice for every decision that's being made. The meetings, we have an RSA lead in the school. The meetings take place every 2 weeks. The minutes are recorded, and then they're passed on to the management, and also in turn they go to the Board of Governors. So what we have made sure for the children to have a voice is that the RSA is a standing item in all meetings, whether that's a management meeting, whether it's a department meeting, or whether that's a Board of Governors meeting at the very top. It's a standing item, and the council ideas are always going through. So it's a very effective way to do it. Our council are also, our members of the council are also ambassadors. And, you know, because our children sometimes have difficulty, you know, talking in front of a camera, or, you know, when they take people around the school, they came up with the idea of using the QR codes. So we have recorded them, you know, in a more relaxing environment to, you know, if you walk around the school, you see QR codes on the walls, so people are able to, you know, click and see a video of a child that has pre-recorded, you know, something relevant to rights respecting school and introducing the school. So yes, the student council has made a huge change, and from the student council, we had other teams being introduced: the anti-bullying team, the champions team, you know, so all these sub teams from the student council that involved even more children have really worked so well, and we have seen huge difference in the reduction of the instances of you know, behaviors, etc., over the past 4 years. I can't tell you how much that has made change.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that. And I can imagine across our entire audience, people scribbling down some of those ideas. The idea of standing order on every standing item on every agenda across the school. That's a really powerful way of making sure that rights stay front and center of everyone's mind. Thank you. Can we stay on the theme of voice? And I wonder, because we're now working on this format, we weren't sure when we set up the conference that we'd have it as interactively as this. But if any of the other colleagues would like to add to what Ioannis has said, especially about voice and empowerment and children involved. Shubnam, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. We have a monitoring cycle within our school, and our rights ambassadors are part of that monitoring cycle. They will go into classrooms and they will have a tick list with them, and they will ensure that the displays are up. They will listen to pupil voice. They will pull children out of the class and ask them set questions about whether or not they're also taught about their rights within their classroom. Do they get to use their rights, and which rights do they know? So that we can monitor it. They can monitor through the school where it's working, where the good pockets are, where good practice is, and if everybody is at the level they should be. They then report back to the senior leadership team, and also the rights ambassadors, having listened to pupils and what they would like to change in school, are able to speak to the governors and present to the governors. They had an idea. We had about 2 years ago, Betty Campbell's statue was unveiled in Cardiff. It's the first statue of a woman in Wales. And they sang at the ceremony. They came back to school and said, but this is our school. Why have we not got a memorial? So they then presented their ideas to all the pupils in an assembly. They wrote letters to the chair of governors. He had to come in and speak to them. They then presented to the governing body, and they raised the money with the help of Cardiff University. And we now have a mural of Betty on our school wall that you showed in your video. They realise that they can be the change they want to see in the school, and they very much have a voice. And also it's that language around the school, the language of rights that you hear when, you know, enjoy your right to play and enjoy your right to your lunch. But it's that feeling that you're all on the same journey together, because it can't be, if you're going to be a rights respecting school, it has to be led from the top. It has to come from the senior leadership. All staff need to be on board. It needs to, it needs to be explained to them what the value is, what the benefit is to the staff, to the children, to the community, and that we are, with our new curriculum, producing children who are citizens of a multicultural city, citizens of Wales and of the world, and they need to know their rights and stand up for their rights, and we need to start teaching them at an early age in primary.
Absolutely. No, that's fabulous to hear. And I think that involvement of senior leaders and the leadership from the top in every school is so important. It's something we try to get across to new schools as they become, as they start their journey with rights respecting. It's part of our bronze training to mention that. But thank you so much. Marie, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just something simple that we do at the start of every term. We have, it's called a classroom walk and a charter talk. So the children from the action group, along with me, we go round the classes and we just have a chat to the children in the class. We talk about their charter, we talk about how they chose their articles, and what does that look like in their classroom, and how we give them scenarios, what happens if X says something, or how's that reflected in your charter, and why did you pick that one particularly? So the children, it's about their ownership and their buy-in to that. So we do that frequently, and sometimes what happens is if the children go and do it themselves, I'll maybe say to a group like, can you go and do that one today, round to the primary 7 class or whatever, and they'll come back and say they've got a lovely charter but they're not really doing it. So then we can have that discussion of where can we get that buy-in. So we come back to assemblies, and it's a bit like the same idea where we have it's part of the agenda of every meeting. How's it going in your classroom? Just keeping abreast of it and keeping up to date with it. But the charter talk works really well, and the children, they'll talk to one another and they'll come and speak to us because they trust us that things are going to move forward.
Thanks, Marie. That's a great example, and that sense of the children really owning the whole process so that they know that they can support each other, and if things aren't going as well in one area, they can really add value by commenting on it and sharing their thoughts. So it's fantastic to hear them so heavily involved in the dialogue and really owning all those processes that are part of becoming rights respecting. Thank you. Sumana, do you want to comment on aspects of voice of students and their empowerment, please?
Yes, our steering committee also does that. They go into classrooms, look at charters and talk to children, because that's the best way to know whether they're being used properly or just up as a display on the boards. One good idea is, I don't know, we've done it, but our school driver is global citizenship. So that works really well when we're brought into looking at the global goals. So every year group has a global goal that they focus on. They present assemblies, they campaign for that particular goal. They invite parents. I think somebody had being healthy, and they invite parents, cooked healthy food, campaigned for food like that regularly at home. So it's really good getting the community, and it was their voice. They wrote to West Streeting, our a local MP, because they realized themselves that why are we throwing plastic with paper? And it's actually made a change. And when they got that letter back from West Streeting that that's happening, and you're going to get a new recycling system, that's people voice in itself. So they've made changes. Yes, we are really pleased with that. We also involve them in rewriting some of our policies, like the behavior policy, in child-friendly language, so it's understood by children, even the SDP. And this time, because we've got subject ambassadors amongst our steering group, we're going to have a go and see if they can write the III statements in child-friendly language.
Could you just say a bit more, please, Sumana, about that last point? Did you say III?
You know, our subject leaders have that intent, implementation, and impact document for each of their subjects, what they're supposed to be doing. It's all very good because the teachers all know it, but do children understand why geography is being taught in their school? How is it being taught? Do they know what's happening across the school? We're going to trial that. So, because you've seen them being able to do a lot of things, really good input on behavior policy. So hopefully they'll be able to work on that as well.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted you to sort of unpick that a little bit, because colleagues in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland won't have that III agenda, which is very much, no, not at all. It's very much part of the English system at the moment, and a huge driver for head teachers and senior leaders. But great to hear that you're, as a rights respecting school, actually engaging children in that process and giving them a voice within that, which is really exciting to hear. Just before we move on and go back to our panelists, I intended to say at the beginning and completely forgot, if those joining us in the audience do have any questions, please do use the Q&A to post anything that you'd like to ask of our really expert and well-informed panel. It's down to colleagues like these and all yourselves who are delivering our RSA day by day. And I'm just going to go to my colleagues, Jerry and Stephen, just to see if there are any questions in the chat at this stage that we could ask of our panelists.
Hi, Martin. Yes, people have been sending in their questions. One I think that stands out, and maybe a bit of a challenge for everybody, is can the panel share an example of a practice in school that has been in place for a long time, which has been challenged and subsequently changed due to our RSA?
Thanks, Stephen. That's a great question. I'll just sort of talk over it for a second to let people have a think. And Marie's put a hand up, so go for it, Marie, and then we'll go to Sumana. Thank you.
One of the things that changed in here when we were talking to the children was we're nearly at capacity, our school, and we don't have any changing rooms. And prior to COVID, children would come in and they would get changed in the classrooms, and the boys would go into one classroom, the girls would go in. Some people might be familiar with this. But children, once we started speaking to them, some of the older children, they weren't particularly happy about this. They weren't very confident about doing this. And we said, well, what could the solution be there? So one of the things that they said, well, we could just come in the morning with our PE kit on and wear it for the day. Alarm bells. I mean, the blessed uniform. What were we going to do? The whole place was going to burn down. It would be in complete chaos. The parents would have my back. And I thought there was going to be anarchy in the school, right? But I thought, do you know what? I said, well, here are my concerns around that, because what if people come to school and they think it's a Saturday and they're maybe going to behave in a way that we don't want in our school, or we want everybody to respect one another. So they said, don't worry, if you trust us to do this, we'll do this. So with quite, I don't have a board of governors up here, thank God. I know it can be helpful, but then that could also be an issue. So we went with it. We told the parent council what we were going to do, and they said, do you know what, that might actually be a good idea. Let's just see what happens. So we started. They came in with their a PE kit on. Now we don't have a prescribed PE kit, so we did this last year, and the anticipated anarchy didn't happen. And I thought, well, this uniform had some sort of magic power over them that was helping them to behave in a positive way, as well as their rights. I did think the uniform had magical qualities, but it turned out it actually didn't. The only thing that then flagged up from that was some children were wearing sports gear that was logoed and labelled. And then the discussion with the rights group and other children, even in the dinner hall. This is the thing, when you become a rights respecting school, everything's framed in rights. They know you're going to listen to them. So they'll come up to you and say, a lot of people are wearing these labelled and logoed tops, and that's not fair because not everybody can afford those. So this year, what we've done is we've kept the PE kits, but we've gone for plain white t-shirts and black shorts or black leggings. We do a lot of PE outdoors, so you need a hoodie and things. So we keep the price down. There's nothing labelled. You can pick them up in a local supermarket, but there's that understanding that we want uniformity to stop, so that children aren't singled out or made to feel that they don't have enough. Because there's a huge swing in here. We have children who are living in poverty, about a third of them, but we also have children at the top end of the scale who are living in extremely nice houses, plenty of holidays, you know, they're very affluent. So we've got that swing there. So that's worked really well. We have to keep an eye on it, but we're still alive and we don't wear uniforms some days of the week.
Thanks, Marie. Great example of enabling and empowering the voice of the children and young people. That's fab to hear. Thank you. And Sumana, please do share your example.
So ours was about the behavior at play times, and the children bringing in things to the school council, to the steering group, about not being allowed to play football and how middays had spoken to them and all of that. So we then actually involved our midday supervisor to come in and create a playground charter, a lunchtime and a playground charter with the steering group. And that has worked so well because it's everywhere. It's been agreed by children and by all the middays, and it's up and around the school, and definitely it's being referred to because that has really helped how the behavior is out of the classroom.
Excellent, thank you. And do the children have any role in sort of monitoring that and evaluating how things go over time?
Yes, because the feedback, our steering group always, you know, how has it gone then? If this is in place, giving them that ownership of looking after it, coming back and sharing things. So I try to have a weekly meeting. I know sometimes it is the time. It is having that time to do things like that. But you realize how important it is, how much you probably might not know what's going on in the school that you get from children. And they really, you know, respect that we've got the time to listen to them.
Wonderful.
So
Thanks
yes,
so much.
it is being monitored by the.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm very conscious the time's ticking by so quickly, and before we end, I'd love to hear from each of you with some advice or a top tip to sort of share with colleagues across the entire conference audience. But just before that, I'm wondering, Stephen or Jerry, is there another question or two from our conference participants today?
Well, actually, that we have a couple of questions about staff, Martin, and around how you motivate them and bring them on board, especially perhaps when you've been on the journey for a wee while. How do you keep things fresh? So I think any top tips would be welcome in that space.
That's a great point. Thanks, Stephen. Any thoughts as to keeping your staff and colleagues engaged? I think it's interesting when people start RRSA, there's a newness to it, and everyone sort of, or hopefully everyone starts to get on board because it feels fresh and new. But when it becomes properly embedded, it's part of who you are, it's how everyone defines themselves. And yet, as Gold Schools, you all know that actually you've still got to revitalise it and kickstart it and take a new dimension on the rights. So what ideas have any of you got for that? Thanks, Shubnam.
Being a rights respective Gold School, we have embedded it into our non-negotiables within the school. We have inset twilights. We have every Wednesday afternoon, we have our inset time with staff, twilight sessions, and it's part of that. Every year, once a term, we have an inset on rights respecting and, you know, what's going on in the school, how are the children. Don't forget the non-negotiables. You have to have your class chart up. The children have got to put that up. All of that is embedded within our school. Okay, it's part of everything we do. However, we also have a whole school topic called citizenship, in which every year group will take one of those 17 sustainable developmental goals, and through the rights, they will look at the rights that they have here within a country, and another country, compare the rights there to the rights that we have here, and they will all have a campaign, an action plan, something that they will do at the end of that project. For example, in year one, the year ones, we're very much a literacy-based school when it comes to our curriculum. And so in year one, the children looked at a book called Omar and the Bees. And they learned all about bees and the benefits of having bees. And their advocacy was that they got lots of seeds together, put them in little packets, wrote notes to people about why they needed to plant these seeds, and they made flower corridors, bee corridors from the school to their homes. They went out with members of staff and posted them through letterbox. So that was their advocacy, okay, for the environment. With year 5, they looked at climate justice. They started off by looking at why they had raised money in the September term. They raised money for the Pakistan flood relief last year. And then they looked at why did they have the floods? So they did all that investigation, do research, and then they looked at climate change, and they looked at how the climate change is affected by the Industrial Revolution and burning of fossil fuels, and how the Industrial Revolution was funded by the slave trade. And they looked at how the global North affects the global South. They then went to the Senate, and they had a debate in the debating chamber. As I said, the Senate is our version, our Welsh Government building, and they had a debate there with our Assembly member, who's also Minister for Economics, Vaughan Gethin. And they were, you know, they're never going to forget that. But the other side of it was, because it was a debate, they were put into 2 camps, those for and those against. And those against looked at what's happening, because our children very much look at what's happening in the news and what's relevant, what's affecting them. And they were able to talk about how there were strikes going on in the country, how the teachers were striking at the time, and, you know, how we're unable to take care of the people we already have. So they really did have a proper debate, and that's in our year 5. So, you know, by the time they come through our school doing all this advocacy work for themselves and for others, by the time they get to year 5 and year 6, the older children, they really have a sense of how they can be that agent of change. And we go do this all the way through nursery to year 6. And that is very much driven through our rights respective schools gold agenda. And as far as staff are concerned, if it is a whole school approach, then it's part of your school improvement plan. And that is how you drive it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Shubnam. That's really amazing to hear. You must have a school full of real activist children. It sounds incredible. Would others like to comment on that, keeping staff energized around the rights? Ioannis, thank you.
I'm sorry. I think, you know, I'm not going to make everything rosy from the very beginning. You know, staff have to, you know, for this to work, staff have to sign up for it. Staff have to embrace it. And you have to take time as a leader or as a RSA lead you have to take a lot of time with information sessions and explanations, at the beginning. This is not for me, the main change in the school was the journey. The awards, the silver, the gold, everything there is there to celebrate, that journey. And we got so much out of the journey. And the main thing I would say to people, don't rush it. Sometimes if it's not working and not everybody's on board, and I found that because, believe it or not, although we got the recognition of commitment, 2015, 2014 being a new principal, trying to introduce something like this was not easy. A lot of staff saw it initially as additional work, but then, if you look at it carefully and able to convince yourself, to your staff, and actually tell them the truth, there's two things there. First of all, nobody can really not sign up, to the rights of the children. Who doesn't want that, Secondly, the resources available there, especially, I'm talking from a special school perspective, okay? We always had the problem in special schools of, believe it or not, curriculum, planning, and we have to focus on thinking skills and personal capabilities here. But in special schools, we always had to come up with our own schemes of work and with our own kind of planning of how to do things. Nothing was really given to us. And, there's a great framework there provided by UNICEF. When it came to assemblies, I'll give you an example of assemblies, okay? I kept saying stuff at the beginning, look, we're going to do assemblies. We do assemblies every week. Instead of you breaking your head about what your assembly is going to be based on, there is a nice framework there for every week to base your assembly on, and and everything is ready for you. So it really wasn't. And then when people try it and understand, listen, this is not additional work, then they embrace it and it works very well and everybody comes on board. So take your time, make sure that everybody's on board, and that's the only way it's going to work. And everybody will come on board if you take your time.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Ioannis. Thank you. Sumana and Marie, we've not got very much time left, but if each of you would just like to share a final thought in terms of anything really, but particularly keeping staff on board, if that's on your mind. Sumana. Oh, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry. What we definitely do regularly is have regular insets. So sort of remind us about, oh, these are what charters are. Does yours look like that? Going over the misconceptions. And I agree with what Ioannis just said about there's so many resources out there on your website, UNICEF. It makes it so much easier, the teaching and learning toolkit. If people look at that, the assembly ideas, it's just like so easy for staff to use. So it's not really another thing. And when they understand that it changes the school ethos, they like it, because it's not change just for the children, it's change for everybody really at school.
Great point. Thank you so much. And Maria, quick final word to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think with this, you have to model, you have to be the change that you want to see in others. And just like we heard this morning, you call it out when you don't see that. But to support people to get on that journey, one of the top tips that we had was when people were dealing with things, and we used to put little cards on their lanyards. So perhaps if they were dealing with an incident at the playground, that they would normally have said, right, you two stop that and away you go. It becomes, both of you come here, let's talk this through. And then you start using the language of rights. It's a bit contrived at first, but then it becomes who you are, not what you do. So just keep fighting a good fight, because it's so worth it.
Marie, what a great note for us to end this session on. Thank you so much. And thanks to all four of you. I know that the colleagues watching this and listening in will really have valued and appreciated your insights and your experience. There are many out there who are just as involved in our RSA as all of you, and some of them might be panelists next year. I think a lesson for me is that we maybe need to give a session like this a little bit longer. It feels as if we've only just got going, but for your contributions, I really want to say huge appreciation and thanks, and please keep up the amazing work that you're doing within your schools, and obviously keep in touch with us. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. It's amazing that the conversation veered towards our RSA resources. We honestly didn't plan that. It happened spontaneously in the conversation, but it so happens that the next section of our afternoon is actually about one of our new resources on Spotlight. And my colleague Sarah, I think, is going to be on screen now just to introduce the Spotlight session. So thanks again to our panelists.
Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Hodgkinson and I'm the newest member of the Rights Respecting Schools team, and I'm the professional advisor for schools in the northwest of England. In our final segment of the day, we're going to introduce our latest resource, which is called Spotlight. Spotlight is going to help you consolidate and expand on everything you've learned, so that hopefully you can more deeply embed the strands and the outcomes of the award in your schools. So I'm going to pass over now to my colleague, Helen.
Hi everybody, thank you Sarah. So my name is Helen Trivers. I am one of the senior professional advisors in the team, and I support schools in East London and the South East of England region on their rights respecting journeys. I really hope you've enjoyed the conference sessions today and are feeling really enthused about your work on rights